Good morning. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. The subject of my today's talk is, why do we remember? Probably you have guessed that I have chosen this subject because of the Memorial Day. Tomorrow is Memorial Day, which is a great day of remembrance. So let us talk a little bit about this Memorial Day. Memorial Day, the holiday that takes place annually on the last Monday in May, is a dedicated day for honoring US military, United States military personnel who have died while serving in the United States Armed Forces. So this is the reason why this Memorial Day is celebrated. Probably in all countries, this type of day of remembrance for the dead, the personnel who have died in service of the country is remembered. Now, in United States, over 1.3 million Americans paid ultimate sacrifice to afford us the freedoms we take for granted every day. That means these people, 1.3 billion people, actually led their lives for the protection of the freedom that is enjoyed by this country. So you can imagine again, if we expand it to all the countries of the world, it may be quite a huge number of people actually laid their lives for the sake of the country. In India, there is a day called Shahid Divas, and that is also a day when the freedom fighters are remembered on that particular day. And there are Shahid Minar. Minar means a structure where the celebrations are held and flowers are laid, and also parades are performed. So in that way, it is celebrated there also. Because India, though India received its independence in a very peaceful way, in one sense. That means the transition was peaceful, but for the sake of the independence, many people laid their lives because from the very beginning, when this urge for independence came to the Indians, they started fighting for it. And for that, they had laid their lives, many people laid their lives, and ultimately, even those who were peaceful, many people actually laid their lives also because of the demonstrations and all these things. There were what is called resistance, and in that resistance also they laid their lives. So in that way, they are remembered. Of course, you know, this remembrance is in general. That means it is not particular. There are some particular persons whom we really specially remember. And those days are also celebrated especially in this country, Martin Luther King led his life for the sake of the, as you know, for the emancipation of the certain sect of the people. Then there were, of course, for good causes also. Washington, George Washington is also remembered, and also other personalities are there who were remembered on particular days. I just researched a little bit how many holidays are there, public holidays are there in remembrance of something. First is Martin Luther King's, then Washington's birthday, then Cesar Chavez's birthday, then Memorial Day that will be celebrated tomorrow, Independence Day, July 4th, then Labor Day, in remembrance of in honoring the labor. Those labor, that means those who are workers and producing things for the country, for them also there is a day. Then California Admission Day. That, of course, I do not know clearly. Probably when California was made a state of the United States, became part of the United States. Then Native American Day is there. Veterans Day, of course, is there. Then Thanksgiving, that I know very well, because on that day we have this feast and such other things. Of course, Christmas is a joyous celebration all over the Christian world. Not only Christian world, in other countries also it is celebrated. Though India is a Hindu country, and of course it does not declare as a Hindu country, it is a country which is really freedom of religion is there, but mainly it is a Hindu country, but it is a holiday in India also, because Jesus Christ is revered all over the world, and he has been honored in the past, he is honored now, and also he will be honored in future also. In that way, we have certain persons like Lord Buddha. Buddha's birthday, of course, is not celebrated in this country because there is not many followers. But definitely there are countries where his birthday is celebrated, and because they are a sort of very important personalities of our humanity taken together, they are always remembered. So this remembrance is very important that we see, and definitely remembering means the persons or the events that are really remarkable in the history of the country or history of the humanity, or even the history of a group of people. Remembrance is really very important. So let us go to a little bit of what is called about what is remembering in individual case, and how actually we can benefit by this faculty of remembrance. We can easily conclude that remembering, say, day of what is called, as I told you, Shahid Day, as it is called, that means day for the remembrance of those who have led their lives. Definitely we can imbibe or remember the faculty of what is called patriotism. That is important for anybody. Those who are really sensible citizens, they will always have some sort of patriotism because they love the country. And not only they love the country, but definitely they will like the others also love the country. So in that way, by remembering, they try to pass that sentiment through generations. And in the same way, we see that by remembering certain personalities, we honor that person, and in honoring them, actually, we try to continue the tradition or the talent or the contribution that person has left, which is really very beneficial for us. Suppose we had a poet, his name was Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore. He used to be called Vishwakavi, that means a poet of what is called the world. And the reason is that his poems are really universal in nature. That means it is not really limited to a few people or the person or the people with whom actually he was associated or the country with which you are associated, but his poems are really suitable or appreciated, or it can stir the minds of whole of the humanity. Anybody who can read his poem will get something, some inspiration or some respect for the general welfare of the humanity. So in that way he is labeled as Vishwakovi. So his day is remembered definitely, and he had a great contribution in the literature, music and dance, drama and culture. So those things are really enacted, and that is in that way it is remembered. It is not that it is remembered on this particular day. They are remembered, persons of such caliber is remembered throughout the year or throughout the ages, because their faculties actually is a backbone of the culture. For example, this as I told you about the Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, his music, songs are a part of the life of the what is called a great many people, and they are very appreciated, and people like to sing them or read them or enact them according to what he has done, and in that way they get inspiration and joy also. So that is the particular person's contribution, and we remember them in that way. So this faculty of remembrance is really very useful in the individual case also. In especially spiritual field, remembrance is an important practice that we see. Those who are Christians, they will remember Jesus Christ or remember the name of Jesus Christ by repeating the name or imagining his figure, or going to the pilgrimage places of pilgrimage associated with his life. And also different saints are there who have followed them. They will like to imbibe their teachings. That is quite evident. And in that way, religious personalities are there in every religion. They are remembered because they help. By remembering, we not only just what is called remembrance is a sort of celebration. In the celebration, definitely there is joy. Joy is expressed through probably deliberations, or maybe through music, or even but through feasts also. That is a way we express our joy. But the point is this, that by remembering him, we imbibe some good qualities also. Remembering means if we remember a person, naturally his qualities come to our mind. And these great personalities, spiritual personalities who inhere, that means we have embodiment of good qualities. By remembering them, actually we unconsciously imbibe their good qualities. That is why it is very important to remember, meditate on the spiritual personalities that has come down to us in the spiritual realm. For example, Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ's life is there, his sacrifice is there, his love is there, and his teachings are there. All those things, when we remember Jesus Christ, will come into our mind. Not only the figure, that means picture probably at the initial stage, when we are not initiated, probably the picture of Jesus Christ will be, we shall be thinking of that. And then when we become interested of more, then probably we shall be reading his life also. Then we shall go for the teaching also. And after teaching, probably we shall be interested in following the teachings also. And in following the teachings also, we shall find that we are transforming ourselves. That is the great benefit of remembering the spiritual personalities. So this tradition has come down in all religious, in all religions, and that is quite. This is a very easy way of following a religion and derive benefit out of a religion. So let us see how actually it works. Remembrance is a faculty of the mind, and as you know that every time we are seeing something, for the time being we remember that, then we forget that also. There's a very nice example. When you experience something like dialing a phone number, The experience is converted into a pulse of electrical energy that zips along a network of neurons. Information first lands in short-term memory, where it avails from anywhere from a few seconds to a couple of minutes. That means anything. That means suppose I am talking now, probably after some time I shall not be talking, that means I shall do something else. Probably for couple of hours I shall remember what I have done. But if you ask me, Swami, you gave a talk in say in the month of January on such and such subject, and you said such and such things, probably it will be difficult for me to recollect that. So I might have to refer to my notes or listen to my own talk that has been recorded, then I shall be able to tell. The point is that there is a temporary remembrance when we are doing something, but that really does not remain for a long time. So the example is like this. It is then, that means after from a few seconds to a couple of minutes, the remembrance will be there. It is then transferred to long-term memory through areas in the brain and finally to several storage regions across the brain. So when a particular thing which is of our interest, we try to remember that, so naturally it will spread throughout the brain or in selected places of the brain, and in that way it will be stored, it will remain stored there. Now neurons throughout the brain communicate as dedicated sites called synapses using specialized neurotransmitters. If two neurons communicate repeatedly, a remarkable thing happens. The efficiency of communication between them increases. This process, called long-term potentiation, is considered to be a mechanism by which memories are stored long-term. So this is the basis of remembrance. By remembering repeatedly, actually things are stored for a long time. For a long time means probably forever. And that is really, we can remember things which we need to remember in that way, and in that way we get the benefit of this process of remembering. Naturally, we will not like to remember things which we do not, which are not really palatable for us. Some incidents are there in our life, or something that we read or experience or see may not be very palatable to us. We try to forget them. So it is the best way to forget them is to just to remember them. So if we repeatedly remember them, then actually they will just set into our brain and make a permanent impression on that. So that will be that will cause problem in future. Probably it may cause nightmare. Suppose I have seen one accident. So it is not intentional, but suddenly that happened in front of me. So that is a very macabre situation. That means it is very difficult situation that that doesn't happen every day. So naturally, because of that incident is unique, there is a possibility that I shall be remembering that forever. But intentionally, if I try to not remember that, then actually it will be beneficial for us, because that incident was not really helpful or healthy also. In the same way, actually, if we remember something which is really beautiful, beneficial, spiritually beneficial, so that we should cultivate and remember. That in that way actually we grow spiritually. So there are certain ways that we see that has been said in our spirituality. Especially I have something from Swami Vivekananda that he has said. Swami Vivekananda has written a beautiful book which is known as Raja Yoga. We are studying it at present. We have studied it several times, and it is being studied by many people, and has been studied by many people also. for the sake of its great in-depth study of the mind. He has, of course, followed some standard book, and on the basis of that book, he has given some talk. He had given some talks which came out in the form of a book, Raja Yoga. There was a great sage, his name was Patanjali, and he wrote down from the previous books or previous teachers' records a book called Yoga Sutra. Yoga Sutra means aphorism of practice of yoga. Yoga, as you know, it is mostly popularly known as asana, but it has got the next step is meditation, for which actually it is now more attention is being given to that, because meditation has been acknowledged to be very beneficial for the mental health. So meditation, what is meditation? Meditation means a sort of quietening the mind by a systematic process. Definitely, for quietening the mind, first quietening of the body is also important, otherwise you cannot quieten the mind. If you run, at that time actually you will be able to quieten your mind. Mind will be really, otherwise you will not be able to run even. So mind has to be active. But there is a possibility that when you are not physically active, then you can focus your attention to your mind. Mind is there, and it is quite common experience that we are always thinking. While we are in quiet situation, we are thinking. But these thoughts are usually not very systematic. That's the point. There's a possibility that we can think systematically, and that is really very helpful. So for the quietening of the body, for the quietening of the mind, there is a systematic way of handling the mind. So that is called meditation. And there are different types of meditations also, for different purposes also. For general health, definitely you will find that there are some procedures that are really taught by which mind can be controlled, and we can get some health benefit and also some mental benefit. And it ends there. That means they do not go further. But in India, we see that meditation has been what is called used for the purpose of self-realization. That means for the sake of great spiritual benefit, which actually those who are seekers or those who understand spiritually, they will love to do that, utilize this faculty for that purpose. There are many faculties, especially in Christianity. The faculty of prayer is very important. That means by prayer actually we see that the Lord will come, and then when we shall die, probably we shall be able to go to Him. Or there are certain concepts which are really very important, and in that way prayer and devotion, practice of devotion is much emphasized in Christianity. And many saints have shown that, and they are really become very celebrated saints because of their perfection in that area. But in India, along with that, this practice of devotion, which is definitely very common, this practice of meditation is also developed. There are 4 yogas, as we know. That means by doing selfless work, by practice of cogitation, also one can reach the goal, and it has been said, Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge. And this is the path of meditation, which actually is becoming very popular and getting attention all over the world nowadays. So, this is the meditation. Of course, is a different. It is not that today's subject, but definitely how the memory actually can help us in the spiritual growth. That will be interesting to know. Then Swami Vivekananda has said in many places about quoted about the faculty of memory. I would like to share some of them with you. None of you remember your early childhood, and if upon memory depends your existence, then this argument proves that you did not exist as babies because you do not remember your boyhood. So the point is that if you, it is in the context of the what is called past life. Past life. That means there is a concept that we have lived a life and we have carried our memory in this life, and we shall remember our present life also in future. So in this context he has said, so it is argued that if we had lived a past life, so we must remember our past lives. That means what has happened, that we shall be able to remember that. But usually we do not do that. That means there are very rare persons are there who can tell that I remember my past lives. Of course, there are exceptions that has been found, but very, very rare. Very, very rare. That means, that doesn't mean it is a very common thing. So the point is that if you say that we had a past life, depends upon our memory. That means if you remember, then actually you can say that we have lived the past life. Then Swami Vivekananda is arguing that yes, you do not remember your childhood. That means when you are just a baby, 1 year or 2 years old, what you had done, and then you definitely don't remember. That doesn't mean that you did not exist as a baby of 1 year or 2 years old, because you are grown up from that and you are existing. So you must have existed as a baby. So the point is that remembrance is not the correct criterion for the what is called the confirmation of the past life. Because we do not remember our childhood, still we are existing. So if you do not remember past, that doesn't mean that we have not existed in the past. So this is an argument on the basis of memory. Memory, faculty of memory actually forgotten. That means we forget many, many things. As I told you that I won't be able to remember what I have said 1 month ago or 2 months ago. But definitely I shall be able to remember which actually interested me probably 50 years ago or 60 years ago. There is no difficulty because that is embedded in my mind. So it is common for everybody. Many things you remember and many things actually you forget. That is good also. If we remember everything of our life, then actually our what is called brain will be have to be huge. That means the capacity will have to be so much that it will be difficult to have that type of brain, because so much information needed to be accommodated there. Whatever it may be, it is good to forget also. That is the point. Something needs to be forgotten because all things are not really worth remembering. So Swami Vivekananda is saying on this point that yes, remembrance is not the criterion for having the past life. Then, although it is not necessary that there shall be the memory of past lives, yet at the same time we are in a position to assert that there are instances which show that this memory does come, and that each one of us will get back this memory in that life in which he will become free. The point is that our past lives, according to our concept in Hinduism, it is like this. We have many, many past lives and we have forgotten them. And there is a possibility, according to this Patanjali, there has been some person, especially if we take the life of Lord Buddha, he has said that he could remember his 500 past lives. And not only that, he quoted from that also. That means he used to tell stories that in that life I was, sometimes he was not even a human being also. So in that way he could remember, and he used to tell incidents that had happened to illustrate his teachings. So in that way it is possible, but it is a very rare faculty that we shall be able to remember anything that has happened in the past lives. Then memory means going over these old states in the brain, retracting a thought as it were. So this is the very simple way of describing what is really memory. That means something is there and inside the brain and retracting that incident or whatever incident or something that has really we have that has happened in our life, and in that way the bringing back that is called the faculty of memory. Then he says memory can come from direct perception, false knowledge, verbal delusion, and sleep also. This is very important. Actually, in Patanjali, this has come, or he has described this. That means it can come from direct perception. It is not. It is like this. That means I see something, and I hear something, or I taste something, or I feel something, and it is so unique that it remains in the memory. That means I repeatedly thought that, so in that way it entered into my memory bank, if you call it, and it remained there. So in that way it is collected there through perception. And there is another way which is called false knowledge also. That means there are false knowledge in a sense. That means what I have seen probably it was not true, but that has been repeatedly come to my mind, and in that way it has been corrected in my memory. In that way false knowledges are also there that we see. Then there are also verbal delusion. Verbal delusion means sin which is really a sort of combination of words, but the material doesn't exist as such. So many things are like that, which are like verbal delusion. There are certain examples. Suppose a hare is there, and an artist drew a picture hares with two horns, and it is a sort of then it is described that there is a creature which has this type of appearance, and that will be a verbal delusion, because we shall not be able to find such a creature in nature. So that is called verbal delusion. So in that way, by what is called by composition of words, we can really create a picture, and in that also can remain in our mind. And of course, sleep is there. Sleep is full of remembrance. That means anything that comes in our sleep, in dream. So that is actually our past impressions that actually have been collected, known or unknown, or remembered or unremembered, or something what is called jumbled up. That means one memory, what is called interacted with another memory, which are not really even related time-wise or place-wise. That also can happen. But they are definitely collection of memories. There is no doubt about that. So these are the functions of memories or aspects of memories that we can know. Then we can only have memory of perception. That means what we have perceived, that through these actually, as we see, delusion and all those things are also a sort of mental perception. So in that way, those things have to be perceived. That means we have recognized those things. That is why they can enter into our memory. That which we do not perceive, we never can have any memory of. So we do not know. I have not gone to Tibet, so naturally I don't have any memory of Tibet because I have not perceived that place at all. This is very commonsensical. So anything that I have not perceived cannot be, I cannot remember. The word memory includes unconscious coordination of past experiences reduced to impressions with present conscious action. Yes, this is actually how the memory works. That means our consciousness brings back some incidents, and in that way when you perceive it, then it becomes an object of memory. This is very important because we have to apply our consciousness to some object which is in our mind. Then actually it will work. So many things are there inside the mind, but we have forgotten, but you can do it selectively or intentionally. We can perceive something intentionally. Suppose we are here seeing the pictures behind me. So naturally we can really, when we go home, we can really, with our recollection, consciousness, we can apply to our memory of these pictures, and in that way we can really see in our mind the pictures. So in that way actually consciousness have that capacity to illumine objects of the which are in the memory. So these are the interesting aspects of the memory which are really we can apply for spiritual purposes. Now let us see all memory, all things which I have seen and which I know are in my mind only. So those things are inside our mind. Probably physiologically, those are scientists, they will say that all those things are inside your brain. Brain is a part of our body, that means. But the mind actually is not really limited to the body only. Mind actually travels elsewhere also. I am seeing something, so my consciousness is being projected through my eyes to certain object. Then actually I see. Otherwise, it will not be possible to see things. So in that way, what is called mind has got that capacity to travel outside the body also. In memory, you are objectifying many things, projecting them out of yourself. So individual memories are there, so all those things are being projected, and in that way we are perceiving things in our memory. So Swami Vivekananda is saying, how many times you were on the topmost crest of the wave. This is another aspect, of course. If the identity of my being is represented by my memory, many things which I have forgotten are lost from the identity. So this is another aspect of the memory that is there. Now let us see how actually remembrance really works. You know, there is a general notion that to be remembered, or you have to, suppose I need to be remembered by you or everybody in the society, so I need to do something which is really remarkable. So in that way, I shall be remembered. And it is easily concluded that many persons whom we remember, they did something remarkable in their lives, that is why we remember them. Say George Washington, Lincoln, or Einstein, or maybe composer Mozart. So in that way, we remember them because they had great contribution. So in that way, they remember. So there is a Sanskrit word which is called Kirtirjasya Sajivati. That means anyone who is reputed for his good activities, he lives forever. So this is a very important thing, and it is a commonsensical also. That means we try to be remembered, and also many people are successful in being remembered, and also by certain act of providence also certain thing happened to somebody, that is why also we remember. So in that way, there is a general intention in our mind that we should be remembered. That means people should remember. And that is also true. That means when we die, we have our memorial service. Some friends and relatives probably will remember me, and if I am really very good, and probably they remember time to time. In ordinary case, I am saying, not a very remarkable person. So we are ordinary persons. In that way, we shall be remembered. But it may happen probably 2-3 generations it will happen. Then it will be difficult to remember even our forefathers' names also. That means our remembrance will fade away. Nobody will remember me. Anybody, it will be the fate of in general. That means we shall end up in that. So it is like this, that kirti, that means this reputation, does not, in ordinary sense, do not live forever. But though has done very remarkable things, the reputation probably will remain for some time. Now, that is also very questionable in the present day context. Probably you have heard that nowadays some remarkable or reputed persons who actually contributed, that means who is remembered in the history, they are not really very liked by the people at the present age. So suppose George Washington. So there is no reason why he should not be remembered. He had done such a great deed founding this country. But also there are certain things which actually he had done in his life, which was common. That means he never thought that this will be a cause of his reputation. So in that way, probably he had some slaves. Slavery actually, later on we see, was very much disreputed for obvious reasons, but it went to such an extent that we try to, it is called disrepute such persons for those certain things which are not really appreciated now. So that is the difficulty of kirti. Kirti means reputation. Reputation has always the fear. It has been said in one of the very well-known verses in Sanskrit. That verse was written by one poet. His name was Bhartrihari. He, I believe, was a king. Then he renounced and became a monk, and he wrote a few books. And one of them was in one of the books he has written. Bhoge rogo bhayam. That means suppose you want to enjoy. So he is saying that fear actually adheres everything. In every walk of life you find there is a fear. So to illustrate that, he is saying, Bhoge rogo bhayam. In enjoyment there is fear of illness. If you eat too much or if you eat certain substance too much, so there is always fear that you will catch illness in future. Already now my body is strong. I don't mind eating ice cream, every day. But in future it may not be good. It will be illness. So bhoge, enjoyment means bhoga, enjoyment of everything of all senses. So there is always a fear of illness. Then in social position also calumny. Social position, you see, we have many social positions. Today I am president, but you see there is calumny. People are trying to, what is called, finding out faults in my past life or even in this life and in my dealings and all those things. So if you have a social position, there is always a fear of calumny. And in wealth also, there is always a fear of losing it. So you know the market fluctuates, and the stock market is always fluctuating. So sometimes we lose money. So accumulation of wealth, and not only that, there is a possibility that if you accumulate in the house, gold and all those things, there is always a fear that it will be stolen. So there is always a fear in accumulation of wealth. Then actually there is a fame of humiliation. This is the important one. If you become famous, you see the lives of famous persons, when they are scrutinized, you will find there are certain faults in their lives. So there is always humiliation. You will not be able to find what is called a perfect life in most of the cases. Of course, there are exceptions, the spiritual personages who have really endured their reputation, not because of their reputation, because of their contribution in the spiritual field for the saving of the humanity, you can say. There is no way that we could have saved ourselves spiritually without them. So those persons have maintained or will be able to maintain their fame forever. It is not their fame, we cannot say it is fame, but their lives are really a sort of goes beyond the fame, we can say. It is that's not by name. But for others, there is a possibility of losing the fame because there is always a fear of humiliation. There is, I read in one place, you know Swami Vivekananda's biography. He was a great preacher, and he came to this country, and in India also he preached, and many people draw inspiration out of his lives. So naturally, it was important to have a biography written for him, because people want to know who was he, how was he, what he did, all those things. For reputed persons, actually, it is a curiosity is there, so naturally many people do that, biography. So one biographer of Swami Vivekananda's life said that when we write the biographies, of reputed persons. Sometimes to keep their reputation, we have to hide something which had happened in their lives, because that will add to their that will be an act of what is called humiliation. So that type of thing, by which we can say in simple word, whitewashing. That means certain incidents are there in their lives which need to be whitewashed to keep their reputation, good name. But while writing the biography of Swami Vivekananda, the biographer said that when we go to the little things of your lives, actually we find his life is more emboldened. That means that throws another what is called good quality of that person. In that way, actually, his life is like that. So in the life of the great spiritual personalities, actually it happens like that. When we pursue their lives, little things of their lives actually does not really create humiliation. They actually embolden their lives. So the point is this: fame is, though in general we think that by recognition actually we shall be able to remain in the limelight for a long time or forever, that does not really happen in ordinary case. Then of course the verse says that bhoge rogo bhayam ule chuti bhayam chitte nipadad bhayam mane doinno bhayam bole ripu bhayam. That means in strength there are enemies. As you know, if you are strong, naturally enemies also will try to be strong, and in that way actually then you will start again to become stronger. So it is a sort of competition. So there is always fear. Then in beauty there is a old age. Old age actually, what is called, bring down the beauty of the young age. In scholarship also, disputant. If you are a scholar, naturally there will be other scholars who will try to dispute what you have said. So when Einstein, this relativity theory came out, there are disputants actually. They did not believe all those things. And even Einstein did not believe, or did not really, he actually disputed what is called another thing that came from another group of scientists. It happens. That means there are always disputants for scholarship. And in virtue there is standards, and in life there is death. There is no doubt about that. So these are the things that are really not, they have their limitations. So remembrance or by reputation, actually we cannot live forever. But memory as such, which is a part of the remembrance, is really utilized for spiritual faculty. That also we can see. In our spiritual practice, what we do what is called repeat the name, or repeat the what is called image of a spiritual personality. And in that way actually we remember, we become purer. Because that person was purer, so we become purer. So while remembering or repeating or applying our memory, if we are really cautious that whom to remember, with whom actually we need to associate, if we are really cautious, actually we can become what is called unconsciously spiritual. That means our spiritual qualities will improve. So that is that faculty, or that truth is actually used in spiritual practice. And not only that, what has happened to us according to Vedanta, which is we will find it is very illuminating, that what has happened to us, that means we are, according to Vedanta, we are what is called ultimate reality. That means we are Brahman, that means we are Atman, that means our consciousness is divinity itself. But what has happened to us? We have forgotten that divinity we have lost. Why we have lost? Because actually we did not pay attention to that consciously or unconsciously. Unconsciously, when suppose we believe in the theory of evolution, so we did not have the faculty to know what we are. But when we come to a human being, then actually we could understand that yes, there is something inside ourselves and that needs to be explored. But it is too late for us to explore that. But in essence, actually, we had that divinity that actually is there and that we have forgotten. And we need to remember that we need to really discover that from our memory. And there are two aspects in that. If we are not really divine, actually we cannot become divine. That means it will not be possible for us to become what is called part of the divinity. That means we shall not be able to become God, if you call it. Because there are human beings who become God because they had that faculty and they discovered that. That is why they are respected as God or incarnation of God in that way. So there is a possibility for everybody. Swami Vivekananda has said, if one person has done that, there is we have to, it must be, all person must have that capacity to have that if we really try to do that. So they were also human beings. Jesus Christ was a human being, Buddha was a human being, Rama was a human being, Krishna was a human being. In our time, Ramakrishna was a human being. They had the great discovery that they are really one with God. So that faculty actually is there inside us, but we have forgotten that faculty within ourselves. That means our memory of that has gone, what is called, has been lost. So we can do that. We can bring that back according to our scriptures and our teachers by remembering that. In ancient times, they used to say, just think, I am Brahman, I am God. And in that way, if we repeat, then we shall become God. But that doesn't happen nowadays that we see. So naturally, we have other practices that is really worth doing. What is that? Repetition of the name. That means spiritual personalities are there. Their names, repetition of their name and form actually will concentrate our mind. And the point is that when the mind is concentrated actually, automatically we shall be able to discover our true self. That means we shall discover that we are really divine. That means we are really God. So in that way, this practice of spirituality actually is nothing but a practice of remembrance of your true nature. So in that way, memory is very important faculty that we have, and that it needs to be cultivated, cultured, and directed in the proper direction, and that will be a real remembrance of what is called utilization of real faculty of memory, and that will be real remembrance for us. Next Sunday, on June 5th, Swami Ishwadhananda will speak on the sermon at Deer Park. On Wednesday, there will be a class. It will be in person and also on Zoom on Raja Yoga. That class will be given by me on Friday at 6 p.m. And Narada Bhakti Sutra class will be given by Ishodhananda. It will be followed by guided meditation. That is on Friday at 6 p.m. And this is on Zoom only. Then on Saturday there is a discourse on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And the discourse will be given by me. It will be in person as well as on Zoom. And I am glad to announce that we shall have summer retreat this year, and that will be on Saturday 16th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the speaker is Swami Sarvapriyananda, Vedanta Society of New York. He is a very well-known speaker, and he will be coming and give the retreat on Drishya Viveka, that means the seer and the seen. So that is the subject of the summer retreat, which will be on Saturday, July 16th.